It is just a continuation of we've got to also bring in those with subject expertise. And the Kentucky model is something that I think we could learn a little bit from. I think we can be inspired by good things that are happening in other parts of the country. But what we have to be careful about is that we don't just try to drop something straight into Oklahoma without making it work in our state. We have a state that's unique with rural, urban, and suburban districts. And there's a broad spectrum within all of that. So how do we make it so that we are able to really achieve those standards? I do believe part of the way we achieve that is by giving good information then on the assessment piece, so that people at the local levels can make good decisions. So what that really means is we do need to have something like the Iowa Basic Skills Test that was a standardized test, very simple. You could have a paper pencil delivery. Public and private schools used to, do them alike. And it wasn't until No Child Left Behind that we couldn't do that anymore. The shift changed to adopting your own standards within your state, having a criterion reference test, and then we had cut scores that were manipulated within our state, and we were only measuring kids within Oklahoma. So people didn't know how their kids were doing unless they just had a perception of that. If we really give them a test, like a simple test like the Iowa Basic Skills, we'll be able to measure across state lines, and we'll know how to adjust instruction for those students early, not when they take the ACT at the end.
What we used to have remember Iowa Basic Skills Test? We would take that maybe in about a week, and it was not a high-stress situation. It was information that was used to affect student instruction. And we would use that then as teachers to give a different approach to better serve the needs of students. We need to get back to that.
Thank you. Even though we've had several personal state income tax go into effect over the past few years, state revenues have continued to increase. Do you favor additional cuts to Oklahoma's personal income tax rates?
No, because I think that what we have right now is already enough in our education system. However, we are not spending what we have wisely. And that's my point. It was, Thursday. I met with State Auditor Gary Jones, and we talked about having embedded in the State Department of Education auditors, just like they're doing right now in the Corporation Commission's office. And that would be a way to make sure that we have that the resources that we have are being used in a way that will get to the classroom, and then let's hold those districts accountable so that they are going to get the money straight to where it will have the greatest effect and impact on student learning. But we have to spend what we have in a more wiser way that will have direct effect on students and instruction. I do also want to say, though, that as we look at this, we have to recognize that our teachers are continuing to leave to other professions, and that has to be addressed. And that is not in any way, as a teacher, this is my profession, and I appreciate that when I was a teacher in Texas, I could make more money now, as well as when I was a teacher than in Oklahoma. So we do have to look at how do we stop teachers from leaving our state, and how do we attract and retain top talent. And that doesn't mean compromising quality. And that is a concern that I have right now, where we are really reducing some standards that I think have to be reviewed and make sure that we have top people. But Oklahoma City has 400 openings for next fall.
Joy, since you misheard the question, I'm going to read it again. I'm going to let you respond, but do it very quickly, please. Even though we have had several personal income tax cuts go into effect over the past few years, state revenues have continued to increase. Do you favor additional tax cuts to Oklahoma's personal income tax rate?
Okay, I'm sorry for not hearing you quite right. And I started thinking of what you were saying at the beginning. I taught in Texas. We didn't have a state income tax. So instead of just reducing a little bit, I think we need to be a little bolder, and let's have a real conversation about how we will support core services, but I don't think we're aggressive enough we're not going to attract the kind of business we think we're going to attract just by doing a gradual decrease. But if we were to really rip the Band-Aid off and cut it, it will force us into discussions on how do we properly fund core services. And we did that in Texas, we can do that in Oklahoma, but it is going to take a plan to get there. But just having it stay the same is not going to really make it so that we have new business coming. They're attracted when they see something more significant.